Recently, Cabinet received a memo outlining the unintended consequences of government's over-reliance on tourism accommodation to house Ukrainian refugees and asylum seekers. This is an issue that Irish tourism leaders have been concerned about for some time.
Currently in regional Ireland, 35% of all tourism beds have been given over to the government for Ukrainian refugees and asylum seekers. Look at County Donegal, for example, where over 50% of tourism beds are contracted to the government, 39% in Clare, 37% in Kerry. Not only will this undoubtedly impact on the availability and price of the remaining tourism beds, but worryingly, downstream tourism businesses, restaurant, attractions, inbound operators, activity providers will all miss out on the tourism dollar.
The Irish Tourism Industry Confederation has taken a closer look at government's over-reliance on tourism accommodation and the worrying impact that bed shortages will have on the tourism economy. We've taken a road trip to Lisdoonvarna in County Clare to see firsthand how the local tourism economy is going to be affected this summer. Here we are in Lisdoonvarna in the heart of the Burren, a glorious part of Ireland. Tourism is absolutely vital to here, Ireland's largest indigenous industry and its biggest regional employer. And immediately on entering Lisdoonvarna, you can feel the lack of buzz normally associated with such a vibrant tourism town. Nearly all the hotels and guest houses in the town have contracted with government. There are very few tourism beds available. So, for example, this hotel here in the middle of Lisdoonvarna, 111 bedrooms, is fully contracted to the government for the rest of the year. And also this hotel too, contracted to the government and not available to tourism for this summer. Lisdoonvarna here in County Clare is obviously famous for its matchmaking festival. It happens in September of every year. About 40,000 people come to Lisdoonvarna looking for love. But what will it look like later this summer without tourism beds and adequate tourism experiences? The accommodation providers are providing a valuable humanitarian service and of course receive payment from government. However, data from Fáilte Ireland shows that for every €1 a tourist spends on their bed, €2.50 is spent on ancillary services. So there will be a significant impact on non-accommodation businesses, such as Peter Jackson's from the Roadside Tavern. So Peter, the Roadside Tavern here in Lisdoonvarna, how important is the tourism market to you?
Hugely. We rely on purely tourism. So we're situated here in the Burren in County Clare, and tourists come from all over the world to see the Burren, and unfortunately at the moment they can't stay in the Burren. Here in particular, I think we've up to 6 hotels that are full, and that's a huge amount of tourists that would have been here that would have kept businesses like mine afloat. Particularly in our town of Lisdoonvarna, there's a huge amount of accommodation gone. Where if the government had said, right, 1, maybe 2 hotels per area, but we unfortunately have just been saturated.
Peter, like all the tourism folk we talk to, is welcoming and hospitable to refugees, but he is worried about the economic consequences of a lack of tourism beds and the impact on his business.
Well, for us, our business levels are down dramatically. Yeah, so for example, this week I should have had a university from Holland staying with me all week. It was 75 of them, dining over 5 nights. That would have been huge business for me to have. And unfortunately, up until 2 weeks ago, they thought they were coming to the Burren, and to their shock, when we were corresponding with them, I said, please check your accommodation before you transfer any monies over to myself. And lo and behold, their accommodation was cancelled on them. They'd paid for their flights, they'd paid for their buses, transfers. They were trying to pay me for their food that we're going to be having. And that's after leaving a huge stain on A, the property that cancelled their booking last minute, and B, just on the area in general. From correspondence afterwards with this gentleman, he said they won't be returning to the Burren.
The town certainly lacks any atmosphere, although the new arrivals are happy and well catered for by the locals.
I live in Ireland for 1 year.
And do you like Ireland?
Yeah, I like Ireland.
Nearby Doolin Ferries is run by Liam O'Brien, who is also noticing the impact on his business, as are his colleagues around the western seaboard.
It's funny because we're right in the centre. We're very lucky. We're right in the centre of the Wild Atlantic Way. But like the likes of these islands here in Mayo and the islands in Donegal and down in around Cape Clare, they're really slack. Like, there's nothing happening out there.
Liam points out how critical tourism is to the West Coast.
It's everything. There is nothing else. There is no industry. We don't have any factories. The west coast of Ireland, I would say that for the whole west coast of Ireland. My business, I grew up in our business. It's 9 months of the year. The other 4 months, we don't have any income. Like, we don't do anything. So you have to make in 9 months what you should do in 12. We have no alternative. There is nothing for us to do here. Outside of tourism, it's a little bit of farming. Farming isn't going to make ends meet for people, So tourism is everything for the west coast of Ireland.
Ben Bennett from Ben Surf Clinic in Lahinch is also feeling the impact, and not just from international tourism, but also the domestic markets, such as school groups.
Yeah, exactly. So, for example, here in Lisdoon, there'd be a big hostel that we would have used or recommended, but that's actually closed now to the public. So schools will have to either shift their location or try and find somewhere else. But to be honest, there's so much pressure that they can't find it.
County Clare and the Burren had made great strides in recent years to encourage visitors to stay in the region. That is now at grave risk.
And we've fought really hard over the last 15 to 20 years to try and encourage them to stay overnight, try and keep them one night, try and get them to go to other activities and attractions in the area, and now they can't. So there isn't that possibility to stay and spend, which is what a lot of programs and Fáilte Ireland programs have been trying to encourage for the last while.
Such a view is shared by Peter.
We're relying now purely on people that are coming to see the Cliffs of Moher, coming to see the Burren, but we're only a stopgap on their journey now. So we've spent years trying to get the Burren out there and working as a collective to have people stay in the Burren. How do we get them to stay another day and really experience what this magical place is all about? And now, as I say, it's just a stopgap. Google Maps will send them from down the road, down Corkscrew Hill, straight on to Galway, and they've missed everything from like Polnabroon, Donlan Stone, the Alwick Caves, Doolin Cave, to name a few places that are spectacular to see. But these people will never see them when they're just passing through here. They can't stay, they can't immerse themselves in our culture, our music. We have the most amazing food producers down here that people can visit. Like, alright, us with our food is if you can taste it on our menu, you can go and visit the producer, the supplier, and they don't do that now. So it's just a massive knock-on effect for every small business here in the Burren.
It's clear Lisdoonvarna, along with many tourism towns in the country, is facing a very uncertain time. So here, for example, in Lisdoon Crafts, which is right in the middle of Lisdoonvarna, which sells absolutely gorgeous merchandise and Irish-stocked, Irish-themed goods, they're worried about what the season will look like, because there won't be the same number of tourists in Lisdoonvarna because there's not the available bed stock. It's going to have unintended consequences on downstream tourism businesses such as this, and that's a concern. There's a huge onus on government to provide a much more balanced approach to housing refugees and asylum seekers. Government cannot over-rely on the tourism sector. Something has to change. Modular housing, state institutions, unused dwellings, vacant buildings, all these other forms of accommodation must be explored. Tourism and hospitality will play its part, but we can't be the primary accommodation provider. As we left Lisdoonvarna, it was clear that locals were very welcoming to refugees, but that tourism businesses felt that they cannot be the primary provider of humanitarian accommodation to the detriment of the broader tourism sector. Hotels and guest houses were only ever supposed to be a short-term solution to the refugee crisis. They are quickly becoming a medium-term solution, and many fear that there is no alternative plan in place from government. A mitigation fund will be needed for impacted businesses this summer, and a much more balanced approach to accommodating refugees must be produced soon. Such is the seriousness of this subject for both the welfare of refugees and the health of the tourism industry that the Department of Taoiseach needs to lead out on this. Otherwise, proud towns like Lisdoonvarna will suffer significant economic damage.